Today, two U.S. aircraft have gone down, two Air Force aircraft, in fact, in Iran. There is a F-15E that crashed. It has two crew members. They were both supposedly ejected. One has been found, but one is still, there's a big search going on for him. In fact, both Iranian and American forces are searching for this missing crewman, which makes the search for the American side all the more challenging. We'll talk about that in a second. There's also been an A-10 go down. The A-10 has one crew member. He's been recovered, rescued. So two crew members rescued, one still at large. Now, the A-10 that went down, both these aircraft, of course, Iran, anytime an aircraft goes down, well, it's bad for bad maintenance or something, which causes a lot of the crashes. Whatever the case is that caused the crashes, Iran always claims, any opposition is going to claim, oh, we shot it down. They'll always claim that. Maybe they did, maybe they didn't. What I do know is a video that Iran posted claiming they shot the A-10 down is not a video of an A-10. Also, with the F-15E, Iran claimed they shot down a F-35. So they obviously knew something went down, didn't know what it was. So how do you count that as credible when they don't even know what aircraft they shot down? The sad thing is Americans, through OSINT stuff like on X, looking at this aircraft and the wreckage, were the ones that determined and announced to the world an F-15, which was not good. And here's the reason that was not good: loose lips sink ships. And it just so happens F-35 has one crewman, F-15E has two crewmen, and so they knew that one had been rescued. So that alerted the Iranians, oh, there's another guy to get. So that put the crew member who is still at large at risk. Yes, U.S. wags on the internet, blah, 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 put one of our crew members at risk by saying, oh, no, that was not an F-35, that was an F-15E. Okay, well, loudmouths, why don't you shut your trouts for occasion? But now it's out. So we can talk about it. We're going to talk about what this means, the rescue aspects of it, some of that stuff. And I'll go into some detail that some of the other channels won't go into here. So we're going to talk about some of the things at the disposal of a crew rescue mission, the crewman who is trying to evade capture and survive. It's a very challenging thing. And here's the other thing to bear in mind: when you eject from an aircraft, that is an explosive ejection. The rocket motor that's under that seat that sets it off, and you got to have the canopy go off, and then you go out and you got to clear the hole on each side of the aircraft, the fuselage. And it's quite often that crew members get broken bones, at least. I think the survival rate of that is something like only 80%. So you got a fair chance of not surviving because it's a very dramatic, explosive event getting you out of that aircraft before it crashes. It's better than not having ejection. It's just the best alternative we've come up with. It's not foolproof by any means. And that means that whoever's evading capture may be injured if they're still alive. And this whole war could turn on this one event. And here's how that could happen. It could happen through a lot of things, such as if he gets captured and gets executed by the people that capture him, then the United States will be calling for boots on the ground. If he, now that will change everything. If he gets captured and the Iranians are trying to negotiate, that can stop everything as we negotiate. However, you got to bear in mind, the United States has historically had a position of not negotiating with hostage takers. And they do that so they don't encourage the taking of hostages. Whenever you negotiate with a hostage taker, you encourage the terrorist organizations to take more hostages, the drug gangs or whatever. And when it suddenly becomes a major profit center, we all become targets when we go at large. So that is not a good thing to do. And will the United States succumb to that? Hey, I don't know, my friends. There's a lot of things that play politics and get dirty on such things. So we'll just have to see what happens. I'm opening my chat room on my phone because my side computer's in the shop right now. Anyway, so there's a lot to know about this. Uh, for example, we're going to talk just a little bit about the survival, evasion, resistance, and escape, the SEAR program. You may know that I've had one of my guys I've interviewed on this channel twice, John Hollerman, who's a SEAR trainer. He was, he's now with, he's an officer. I'm an officer in this, in the organization that Dr. Peter Vincent Pry founded, which we call the EMP Task Force of National Homeland Security. Now we just call it the National Task Force on National Homeland Security. Yeah, our organization, all our positions in this task force are all a mouthful. So, in any event, so my friends, yeah, I'll probably get him on the channel again soon. Jonathan Hollerman's a really good, upstanding man. So, all that aside, yeah, he was just training this SEAR stuff, and this is what a pilot that goes down has got to deal with right now. And like I said, there's a high probability the man is injured, man, woman, whatever it is, if still alive. So we'll talk a little bit about that in a moment. But yeah, so there's a lot of false stuff that gets advertised from both ends. It's a fog of war. Everybody makes claims and counterclaims, and a lot of them are rubbish. So you've got to be able to filter through the chaff to find the grains and nuggets of wheat among it. And you get that from both sides in any conflict. It's always out there. So determine what the truth is takes a little digging sometimes, but sometimes people dig too much and talk too much when they ought to keep their trap shut, as in the case of some of the OSINT people. I'm going to post some of the stuff from one of those OSINT people who usually has some good intel, but you got to be careful what you say. And you need to be mindful. If you're a social media creator and you figure something out, you better think about what the consequences are of what you announce about it, because you might be putting somebody's life at risk. And indeed, I think that's what happened today. The Iranians thought, well, okay, nobody there was F-35, and then somebody had to wag and say, oh, there's an F-15. Hey, look at these pieces out there. That's not F-35. Okay, now they know there's two. So now here's the thing about it. When this individual, yeah, we got two sets of teams looking for him. We got Iran and you got American. The American team's a pair of jumpers from the Air Force. They are essentially special forces with medical training. They're trained almost to the level of the Delta Force or the SEAL Team 6 level. Delta Force Army, SEAL Team is Navy. They're comparable in their level of training. So these parajumpers of the Air Force train, the Air Force don't ever have quite on the ground combat like the Army, the Marines, and and such. But they do have that, especially for the rescue teams. Like I said, they're almost trained to the level for combat tactics of a Delta Force member, Green Berets, or the then Green Berets participate with Delta Force, or the SEAL Team 6 level. Now, but they also have medical training, because quite often an individual who's survived a crash, an ejection procedure, is injured badly, and they may have injuries due to just their attempt to survive and evade forces that are after them, chasing them. So that's what the individual is going to be doing, is trying to evade capture. Now, it's also a problem that if you are focusing on where they're at with your rescue team, you're automatically alerting the adversary where you think this person is. So even if we know where the person is, we may be monitoring this person with a drone. And we got drones that fly so high you can't even see them, but they've got real good intel. They can look down with their FLIR, their forward-looking infrared cameras, and see people and know where they're at. So it's quite possible we're watching this guy, but if we put our forces right there, we're going to track the Iranians. So our forces may be intentionally leading them astray with aircraft activity in a certain area. Then once this individual's in a good place to look to rescue, and the opposition is away from there looking over here, then you make a quick run around and try to pick this person up. It could be something like that. They do have gear that can alert their location, and they can even communicate with if they have it and are using it. Like I said, though, the ejection is an explosive process, and some of that gear may not do so well either. So these are all things to take into account. So bear that in mind, that this person's life is at risk if they're still alive. They may not be alive. It's also possible that there are friendlies in Iran who are friendly to the West who may have taken this person in. But Iran has also put out something like a $60 million bounty to try to capture this person. Now, how do we know the Iranian IRGC, Iranian military, have not captured him? Simple. If they captured this person, they'd be posting pictures all over media and trying to force this person to say bad things about the U.S., the invasion, the U.S. military. That's what they do. When they capture somebody, they put them under extreme coercion and always try to get them to say negative things. So, and their coercion can be extremely extreme. And everybody has a breaking point at some point. Well, they try to put people in the breaking point as fast as they can get them there. So that's part of the SEAR training also, is to deal with the kind of pressure that you would be under if you get captured. So they do train for that. That's one of the reasons in basic training ought to be tough, and drill sergeants ought to be mean to the recruitees, because if you can be nice to them and treat them with quick kid gloves like they've been doing lately, or at least during the Biden administration, you supposedly had like some kind of card they could throw up if they felt threatened. Just what is that? Guys, if you're going in the military, you got to be tough and you need to be hardened up, because you might be captured by an enemy. And if you can't handle a drill sergeant, you dang sure ain't going to be able to handle being captured by an adversary. So yeah, basic, it's supposed to be tough. You're supposed to get your kick. You're supposed to get insulted. You're supposed to get hardened. You're supposed to get used to that. That's what it's all about. And then they try to take it out, put kid gloves on. And the drill sergeants ought to kick them good, I'm sorry. The military is made for war. It's a tough place, and you got to be hard to be in it. That's the way it ought to be. And all this social blah 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 they try to put on the military. I'm glad Higgs is kicking that stuff out. A lot of people are crying about him doing that. No, that's what needs to happen. All that aside, I digress here. Just when I heard all this stuff about what they've been doing lately in the military, it just made my skin crawl. It's like, what? What is that? That's not basic training. It defeats some of the purpose of it. It's not a social experiment. It's about war. It's about you need to be a warrior, even if you're in a support role, because always the objective of the enemy is to get behind the front rows and get the guys front lines, get the guys in the rears. You're always a target. So so that's why everyone in the military goes through basic training. It's basic. It's training. If you're going to be in the military, you need it. Been there, done that. I've been on the receiving end. I've been hit by a drill sergeant. Yes, they would hit you from time to time. Hey, so what? If you can't take a punch, you don't need to be in the military for what is about war fighting. Good grief. It's not, you don't go in for a cushy life, like, I don't know if you ever saw the movie Private Ryan. They was supposed to convince her she's going to live in this nice, posh little apartment and have a cushy life, I don't know. That is not what it's about. So enough said on that. The military is there for war fighting. Defense is war fighting, by the way. Even as the Department of Defense, they named it the Department of War. And it looks like it's living up to its name. All that aside, I have a drink of water and getting hoarse talking. My reserves are low. Anyway, I got a little bit of coffee left here, but I'm just about drunk it all just before I started the video. Whoa, got to stay awake, guys. All right, so I think it's time for me to digress from the talking and start showing some articles here to back up some of the things I'm talking about. Also the Strait of Hormuz thing. There's a lot of things going on with that. We got a few ships that's made it through. There's a coalition forming to try to deal with it. The Gulf states are talking about putting in a pipeline to divert stuff. There's been some talk about making a canal, but that's probably a pipe dream. They're probably going to use a pipe instead of that pipe dream. I don't know. But any of this stuff can be targeted. The Iranians are saying, anything associated with the United States will never get through the Gulf of Hormuz. And Trump is saying, who cares? We don't need it anyway. So it is kind of sort of true. But even if stuff is going through for everyone else, if just having that oil flowing If we can get the fertilizer products flowing again, it all goes into the world marketplace. Once it gets out, it's in the global market. Prices can go down, whoever it goes to. It don't matter. We've got our own oil that we can, we're a net oil exporter in the United States. Man, I'm getting hoarse. I don't know if I got enough water. Anyhow, I'm just getting started. Yeah. Anyway, so let's do this. Let's get, a lot of stuff's going on. Let's get into the articles here. Before we do, I'm going to show you something to help you and can help me both at the same time. Where is my screen? Oh, I got to change this. Hang on, guys. Sometimes I got a lot of stuff to switch. Getting, there we are. There we are. Yeah. I think we're showing the screen, but don't have a highlighter around it. So we usually get a green highlight around the screen. I'm showing. Okay. I think we're there then. There's a lot of lag on what's showing on the phone here. So let's get to it. One of the things you may know, I've talked about a lot on here, is just how contaminated a lot of our products are. I'm still not seeing it. There it is. Okay. And my screen on my phone is way delayed from several minutes from behind. All right. So this, like I thought, there's a lot of consumer products that we get that's highly contaminated. This article here is talking about nail polish, dish soap, shampoo, dangerous chemicals linked to cancer, reproductive development problems. Just, the problems are off the charts. A lot of stuff. Some of the chemicals you find, DEA, formaldehyde, and you get this. Hey, crayons. Man, didn't you chew crayons when you were a kid? I did. Beauty products, just about anything coming out of a store. I mean, you name it, it's got it. I covered over 2,000 different products that were contaminated with rat feces. Recently, I covered toothpaste. 90% of the toothpaste you buy on the store shelf, even the stuff that's made for kids, and the stuff that's advertised specifically as being healthy, often has 90% of it's got heavy metals. Just crazy crap. I mean, off the chart, bat guano, crazy stuff in our food and in the products that we put on us every day. The products we wash and clean with, they're nasty. They're contaminated with all kind of stuff. And these companies don't care. That's the bottom line, because you got just 12 companies that control over 550 consumer brands. And what do you see is that they bought out a lot of these companies. A lot of these companies had good products before they got bought out. And these guys says, no, this is what you're going to have in your formulations because it's cheaper, makes it last longer on a store shelf. And some of that stuff, like Oreos. They took what was inside the cream inside of an Oreo cookie and replaced it with some grease and paste stuff. And, then they had to add other stuff to make it taste nice and give it a good texture. So they just add more and more chemicals. And you find that across the board. You find that all over the place. So a lot of this stuff is absolutely bad for you. It's processed foods especially, but just all this, they got so much stuff out here. Cleaning products just full of contaminants, the lotions you put on, the shampoos. And the crazy thing, those 12 companies are primarily controlled by these asset management companies. They all have controlling interest in those other companies. And that includes our good friends, how come the screen don't want to scroll? BlackRock. 3 big asset managers companies dominate U.S. corporate control. And so you wonder how it is that, Larry Fink from BlackRock, who used to promote the drag queen story hour, now supposedly he's backed off from that. You think he's really changed. But what else is he in charge of now? The World Economic Forum. And what else do we find there when you go to their site and you look who their partners are? It's the big corporations that are funding them. That's the guys that want to put you in a case where you have no freedom, where you have no, their little moniker was you will have no privacy, you will own nothing, and you'll be happy. You're right. So, what does that mean? They want to take your property. You'll own nothing. They literally mean it, not even your underwear. Everything's going to be not socialism given to you. It's going to be leased to you. That's how BlackRock is operating. They're buying up everything to lease it back to you. So yeah, they're serving their own purposes, my friends. You got to remember, those are the guys who fly in private jets to Davos every year, dine on caviar, and cook up plans for you to live in 15-minute cities and ride little tricycles and eat the bugs while they're dining on steak and caviar. That's the world they're trying to set up. So just watch out about that. But every time, according to Milton Friedman, when you buy something, when you spend $1, that dollar is a vote. So you're voting for that product, you're voting for that company, and then you're voting for that funding that goes to Larry Fink's House of Klaus. There we go. I hope you know what I'm talking about. But I come up with a way to get y'all away from that. Hang on if I can switch these screens. I set up this website, switchwithgreg.com. It's a way to switch away from all this big box store junk, all these products from the House of Klaus stuff, to a family-owned company based here in the United States. Everything is made in America. And so you support American jobs, non-toxic products that even the cleaners are plant-based, are extensively tested for consumer safety, and the plants are clean, not some rat-infested, whatever. So if you want to know more about this, if you want to join this and switch away from buying nasty products for you, that you and your family can consume, and supporting the House of Klaus, then fill out this form at switchwithgreg.com. Go to switchwithgreg.com, fill this out. It's my website. It don't belong to anybody else. And I get this directly, and I share it with a lady, Lisa, who's helping me with this. She's a member of the community, and your data is going to go nowhere else. We will be tight with it. We're not selling this to no one. So your data is safe. All right, enough said with that. Now if I can switch sites here again, we'll go on. Here we are. F-15E downed over Iran, and A-10 crashes. And 2 of the 3 crewmen, airmen, have been rescued. The search continues according to this article. This goes in some depth about it. The U.S. Air Force has CSAR teams. That's your parajumpers. I'm going to show a little bit more about them in a little bit. Deployed to the Mideast. They got 8 C-130J Combat King planes. That's C-130 basically, and they got the HH-60, which is Black Hawk helicopters. That's just a variant. They got an A in them if there's attack. So H, I guess that's a hospital. I don't know what the H designation is, but anyway. Search underway for missing that F-15 pilot down in Iran. And while they're showing the Israeli aircraft here in this photograph, you really got to wonder about some of these articles and what they're showing and what they're saying. They show pictures that don't pertain to what they're talking about. A lot of talks about the A-10 Thunderbolt was hit but able to reach safer airspace before the pilot ejected. So, here's a local Iranian TV channel. If you capture and hand over the enemy pilots alive, you receive a valuable award. They're talking about $60 million. So, that's on Iranian state TV. Hand them over, hand them over. So, they think that there may be in a home of a friendly. It's a friendly to the West. Some of the protester crowds in Iran, which over 50% of people in Iran are against the regime. So, a lot of articles on this. I'm going to be out of water here in a minute. A lot of articles on these events here. What are they showing an Israeli aircraft? They're talking about an American aircraft. Some of these articles are horrible. They're absolutely horrible. I can't believe people get paid to write some of this crap. I could write better articles in my sleep with one eye open and one hand tied behind my back than what some of these journalists write. And, they put some crap on here. Anyway, so one of 2 crew members. That's what? One of 2 crew members shot down. One of 2 U.S. How do they diagram these sentences? I don't know. Like I said, they write crap. This is stuck. You don't want to go nowhere. So I can go to another page. I might stop the share for a minute. I'm having problems with this computer. I'm finding out it's this computer because it's getting worse. This is a brand new computer, and it's just got tons of problems. It overheats, and it's got where everything runs slower on it. It's supposed to be a fast computer. It's the worst computer I've ever had in my life. It's the most expensive computer I've ever bought, and it is singly the worst computer. Yeah, I'm gonna probably turn it in. Ask for a refund. It's a piece of junk. It's a Lenovo. All right, let's see if I can go back to share again. Ding, 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 ding. All right, I went to the other article I was trying to go to. Oh yeah, this article. Iran shoots down $10 million U.S. fighter jet, causing manhunt for two pilots. We don't even know absolutely that they shot it down. That's what they claim. Iran has claimed their forces shot down. They said it right there, but the headline, just automatically accepts their claim. We don't know. Yeah, let's see. Yeah, I'm not even going to go through this article. It's another junk written article. There's too many of them out here. How come this thing's freezing up so much? I mean, there's nothing. Lots of times I'll click on something, and if I just wait 10 minutes, it'll go there. I don't know what it is. This computer's a piece of junk. I mean, literally. Well, there we go. Ah, la, la, la. Search and rescue teams are spotted flying over the area. Yeah, and I think the Iranian adversary team's seen them too. That's one of the Black Hawk helicopters searching. As you see 130, the HH 130, whatever they want to call it, flying around looking. This is remnants of the craft that was destroyed. That's a tail fin, I believe, there. The tail fins from the F-15. I don't know. Some of these articles are just garbage. I'm going to kill this one rather than. Some strange sounds. So, yeah, this article is about how this could change the course of the war. This is a British article. It's in the Telegraph. So yeah, so they got two vertical stabilizers to back of an F-15E. They have two crew members that fly them. One of them's a weapons officer, and the other's a pilot. Most of the Air Force planes. Now this is a two-engine plane. That's why it's got this configuration. A lot of your like F-16 had one tail fin and one engine. So F-18 is kind of like it's what the Navy uses. I've worked on the F-15 some myself. It's an incredible aircraft. Those things can climb straight up like a rocket. It is a very incredible aircraft. But let's see. Got another junk article here. I'm going to show you in a second. And then I'm going to show you the data that they purport to go and tell you, and I'm going to show you. Is that it? Or did I skip over? I'm going to skip this article. Wow, yeah, they don't even show the headline we're showing. I'm going to kill that one. It's got nothing. A lot of these articles got nothing in them except ads. Their headline will tell you something, but you won't even find the data from the headline in the body of the article. I think this is. Someone else. Okay. Rescue helicopters hit by Iranian fire. So some of these rescue helicopters have been shot and hit. They haven't been downed, but they have been identified and seen and videoed and shot at by Iranian military. I say Iranian military because Iran has an army that is separate from the RGC. Their military is actually bigger than the RGC. The RGC is what controls it all. So, so some of our research helicopters have been. It's a risky mission. Search and rescue in an active enemy adversarial combat zone area is highly risky. U.S. fighter pilot lost in Iran has 4 key items of survival being hunted by the enemy. I don't think this article actually tells you what they got. If it does, it's kind of gibberish amongst all the articles. Or whoa, can't even search this thing for all the crap popping up. The mirror. Yeah, I don't know. I went through this article and I couldn't find are the other four things. Oh, shit, I'm going to kill this. And too many ads popping up. It's just untenable. I want to show you what they really got. I'm going to show you what is available for a rescued pilot. I hit the X on it, and it's not closed. Okay, it said it takes a minute for things to close. And if I hit it again, it's going to close the next thing in Series 2. This is terrible. This is your pararescue jumpers called PJs, like pajamas. I kid you not. These are the guys I'm telling you that are special forces. They're Air Force Special Operator Command, the AF SOC. PJs and socks, right? Air Force Special Operations Command, AF SOC, SOC. Yeah, the PJs are part of the SOC, AF SOC. But anyway, yeah, these guys are serious, and they have a tough job. They got one of the most dangerous jobs in the military, going in and trying to rescue down pilots in a combat zone full of adversaries. And you come in with aircraft, and everybody's going to see you coming and going. So, yeah, their job is far from trivial. Here's some of their training. Trying to get somebody up the helicopter, getting people out of all kind of locations. It's a very serious job. That's why these guys are trained at Special Forces level, but they are also trained as medics. So they're not double trained. I mean, anybody can do a job like this, you know, coming out of the military. They should have plenty of job opportunities. As you know, they have to be able to train to deal with all kind of emergency situations. They got to be able to train to go into combat zones. These guys are heroes. If you do this job, you deserve tons of respect. I mean, you know, these guys, they are something. They're all heroes. If anybody would dare even take this role on is a hero. There's no way around it. So the Air Force puts these rifles. It's a modified version, the M4 rifle, which is derivative of the old M16, M4 style rifle. They call it a GAL. Where is it? They got it in there somewhere. Yeah, there's 2,700 of these. The GAL 5 Airman Crew Service Weapon. They used to carry pistols until about 1992, and they got rid of the pistols. The reason they would carry a pistol is because what I tell you earlier, you go through the ejection, you're very likely to break a bunch of bones. Yeah, I said break broken bones. That's what I started to say. Yeah, that too. It's that bad. Yeah, you'll break broken bones. But essentially, a lot of times a guy would only have one hand to operate. A pistol was a lot easier to a revolver to operate with one hand than a rifle. You still have to load it, and you have to set it down to load it. And that's a slow, arduous process. But if you're trying to evade more than anything, you're not trying to engage in combat like someone maybe sliding down the snow, from the crash site, firing with your rifle, taking out enemies. Like I don't know. TV puts movies come up with crazy stuff. That don't happen in real life. In real life, you are a target that's very vulnerable, and your primary mission is to not get engaged with the enemies because you're not prepared for it. That rifle is not the best rifle, but it is a derivative of the M4 carbine, but it's got a folding stock, some things like that, to make it fit, more compact than the ejection seat, even if you're able to retrieve it. So it's not a guarantee. And you might be able to use it for hunting, for survival also. But if you target anything as small as a squirrel and down, it's just when you hit it, you're going to get a powder puff of fur and there'll be nothing left. I know. I've seen this. Yes, I have hunted in my day, especially in my youth. I used to be an avid hunter. Yeah, you should. That's why I tell everybody. You got I got all these people in the survival community says, "Well, I'm going to hunt for my food. I ain't never going to starve. I ain't got to grow a garden." So really, all the big animals will be gone in a matter of weeks, and all that's going to be left is, squirrels and rats, and you're not going to be able to hunt them with a big game rifle. And people just they can't wake up to that. You forget that our ancestors wiped out just about everything, just about all the game in a matter of no time with muzzleloaders, when a lot fewer hunters than there are today. So you think you're going to have a lot of big game to hunt and you're going to live off of it for years on end? Yes, most people think that, and they're full of it. I've had those comments on my channel. So many times I try to tell people the importance of gardening, the importance of knowing your wild edibles. Oh, yeah, that's one of the things they train for here, too, with the Air Force. I'll get into that in a minute. But, this rifle, it's got some utility. Definitely has that. But it's, they're not ready for combat. Let's put it that way. Their main objective is to escape. Now, they do have this radio, the Combat Survival Evader Locator System. It does have GPS and two-way radio. So if this thing is working, that crew member can talk to the forces trying to rescue them. Say, hey, I'm here. And it gives a location. I'm here. There's a replacement version coming out, supposedly you can text from. Because if you're talking, you can be heard. And if you can be seen or heard, you can be taken out by adversaries in 4 seconds. It ain't like Rambo, you standing up in the middle of the wide open with an M60 under each arm, mowing down adversaries behind bushes and fences and like you see on movies. No, if you're out in the open, you will cease to exist about as fast as you can snap your fingers. I don't care how many M60s you got, and if you're Rambo or Chuck Norris or anybody, you're going to cease to exist with a blink of an eye. You don't want to be seen. You don't want to be heard. All these TV movies are running around in combat, talking and shouting at each other. Yeah, if the combat is really loud and everything's going boom, boom, boom all around, okay, fine. But if you're out in the woods and you're trying to survive and escape, evade and escape, no. And there's nothing. All these stupid movies are out hunting Bigfoot or something like that. Same thing. Blah, 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 blah. You would never do that hunting, looking for anything. That's just TV. You know, if you're in a tactical situation, keep your trap shut. That's why they have hand gestures in the military. When the guys are on maneuvers, they communicate with hand gestures. They're not out there blabbing, blah, 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 blah. It's up to TV. It's always talking on TV. Blah, 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 babies, blah, 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 blah. You try that, you will not make it out of the woods. Jeez. You will not make it out of the woods. So that is the problem with this. That's why they're trying to replace it with something you can text from and send messages. So that may be why we not heard from him. He may not be he or she in an environment where it's safe to talk. Now that's a possibility. And if you're smart, you don't want to talk unless you're in a safe spot. But you've kind of made sure there's nobody around you, that you are in a place where you're private and you're not going to be heard, then you call. But only when you're sure that you're not going to be targeted for going blah, 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 blah. Another thing, campfires, flashlights, all these things give your position away. You don't want your position given away when you are in a combat situation. Now, I did some videos on here talking about how to survive an EMP, and I talked about how to take out snipers, how to build foxholes, how to secure your compound. It's something I've talked about on here. I've talked about things I've not heard anywhere else on YouTube, like how to take out a sniper. I've heard several YouTube channels say, well, your biggest threat's going to be a sniper, but I ain't heard one of them even talk about what to do about it. Yeah, 2 teams will do us, 2 to 3 man teams, hopefully a 3-man team, can take out a 2-man teams can take out a sniper, actually. You want to flush them out. I've covered how to do that. So, so that's one reason having a mutual assurance group is a good thing. If you're out by yourself, you're lucky it can be as good. Flushing out a sniper. So, it's doable. Now, this is your SEAR, survival, evasion, resistance, and escape. I said it wrong earlier. Survival, evasion, resistance, and escape. So it starts off with survival. You got to survive. The next thing is evasion. You need to evade capture. You need to evade being seen. Then if you aren't so successful, resist it. If you get captured, you want to escape. That's the main objective if you get captured. My dad got captured 2 times in World War II, and he escaped both times. Once in the Battle of the Bulge, and I couldn't get him to talk about it. That whatever happened to them was horrific. Now, they showed some scenes in the movie, The Battle of it was a movie on Pat. I've seen a movie on the Battle of the Bulge, where basically the Germans were lining everybody up like they were going to have chow, and threw the tent off the chow wagon, and had a machine gun in there, mowed them all down. My dad was a really good runner, a really good runner. I used to be when I was young too, and so are both of my daughters. So, in fact, my oldest daughter runs track. So, no, she runs in these marathons. Anyway, so these are things that can save your life. Uh, Running, if you can do it. I can't do it anymore. I used to run 12 miles every other day. My calf muscles, my legs look like this in the bottom. I had huge calf muscles. Oh, I could bench press weight. I could toss hundreds of pounds in the air on my back. I mean, just toss it. And not anymore. I can't even walk a mile now. I damaged myself running so much. Anyway, so survival, evasion, resistance, escape. The Air Force members go through 19 days of training to this. This is where you train on things like how to get water from dew, the bugs and plants you can eat, what to do if you're captured, how to deal with the uh, coercion you'll face, or the interrogations you'll face, and means to escape. Your focus is on getting out if you're captured, and then just escaping the whole environment. So bear in mind, John Hollerman was one of the trainers for this. So if you're a SEAR trainer, you're a very serious individual in survival. And John Hollerman qualifies at that category. So evasion, resistance, and escape. Let this code of the U.S. fighting force. I am an American fighting in the I am an American fighting in the forces which guard my country and our way of life. I'm prepared to give my life in their defense. I will never surrender my own free will. If in command, if I will never surrender the members of my command while they have the means to resist. Three, if I am captured, I will continue to resist by all means available. I will make every effort to escape and aid others to escape. I will accept neither parole nor special favors from the enemy, which they always use to try to damage somebody else or something. Anyway, if I become a prisoner of war, I will keep faith with my fellow prisoners. I will give no information nor take part in any action which might be harmful to my comrades. If I am a senior, I will take command. I will not if not, I will obey the lawful orders of those appointed over me and will back them in every way. You set your own command structure up, even in a prison camp. That's what's said. When questioned, should I ever become a prisoner of war, I am required to give my name, rank, service number, and date of birth. I will evade answering further questions to the utmost of my ability. I will make no oral or written statements disloyal to my country and its allies or harmful to their cause. I will never forget I am an American fighting for freedom, responsible for my actions, and dedicated to the principles which made my country great. I will trust in my God and the United States of America. Yeah, we still got trust in God there. That's the code of the U.S. Fighting Forces. Pretty good code. Now, here's a video. This is OSINT Defender. He puts a lot of good stuff out, but maybe he's one of the guys that may put out too much. This is what the Iranians published to claim they'd shot down an A-10 Warthog. Let's look at this. Now, let's play it. This is some kind of aircraft, but A-10 Warthog has two big jet engines on each side of the wing. This has got long wings. This might be a Predator drone, because Predator drone also has what looks like a canopy in the front, but that's where the avionics are. But it don't have the two, it's got long straight wings, but they're not as skinny as these. This thing has got something sticking up way up in the back, which you don't see on a Warthog. But it had the protrusions on the wings are underneath. So I'd say this is not an A-10 Warthog as the Iranians claimed. Now, here's a jet. Something hits it. Now, there was a Predator drone taken down. Now you see a lot of debris. If somebody had been on that, they probably wouldn't have survived it. That was a huge explosion, which also suggests it might have been a smaller aircraft, as it was totally exploded. So just more evidence it's not an A-10 Warthog, as the Iranians claimed. That's why I say you can't trust the videos people put out, what they say. Again, they claim they shot down an F-35, and turns out that wasn't even the F-35 that crashed. It was the F-15E. But when some of these guys here on the X posted, oh, it was the F-35, it was F-15E, that immediately alerted Iranians that, oh, there's a missing crew member. So I said, loose lips sink ships, and some things you ought not talk about. Some things you might figure it out, but you don't say it. It's like for a long time, I knew that fentanyl on a crop, one of these stupid egg spraying crop drones could be a weapon of mass destruction. I didn't talk about it. I said I knew there was something, and I didn't talk about it until other people started wagging their tongue about it. Okay, the word's out, so I'll say what it is that's worrying me. We got a lot of activity with our carrier fleet. We know we got Abraham Lincoln down here south of the Persian Gulf. The USS Tripoli is in the region now. The Gerald Ford is still in the Mediterranean, but it's really out of combat. Apparently the USS H.W. George Bush is on the way, and the Gerald Ford, after some repairs, will probably limp home. And we got the USS Boxer is on the way too. And that's, the USS Boxer is carrying the Marine Expeditionary Unit number 11. The USS Tripoli here has Marine Expeditionary Unit 31. So now it's in place. This other one is on the way. We do have some airborne troops in the area, 82nd Airborne. I guess these guys, red is in docked ships. I don't know. Green may be either on station or heading to station. I don't know what the color codes mean here. Anyway, don't give me a graph for the color codes. So why don't they have a key for that? Yeah, this is not the aircraft carrier one I've been used, but this is from the warzone.com. This is a pretty good website for military information. All right, enough said for that. So Trump basically is kind of alluded what we're going to do is blow up bridges and power plants. That's what this is all about. And that's what he's saying he's doing. They've already started. They're blowing up bridges. Are they going to start blowing up power plants? That's what's been said. Taking out the grid in Iran. We'll take down the RGC. It'll make them harder to respond and shoot missiles at us. I've covered that in the previous video. But it's also going to affect the civilian population. So that's a tough row to hoe. I hope they're focusing on where the locations are, the RGC and the beige forces. Beige, however you want to call it, beige. Yeah. Iran, what is that? They're going to hate when stuff pops down as you're trying to do stuff. Iran fires at Israel as Trump warns U.S. has not started destroying what's left in Iran. Turns out that they now estimate that 50% of the rocket launchers have survived. So there's, even after we've hit like 1,100, over 1,100, 1,200 strikes over there, just from the U.S. forces, probably Israel's about the same number. Specialized U.S. aircraft carrier deployed to the Middle East could not aircraft carriers, could signal what's next for Iran. What percentage of more warthogs on the way? Those things have been very effective in taking out. They can take out drones. They've been going after the fast boats. The Air Force wanted to get rid of the A-10 probably because it wasn't some sexy new expensive aircraft. It might have been somewhat dominated by the defense community. Your government agencies and these companies they regulate or contract from have revolving doors with each other. And so that might have a lot to do with it. But the A-10 has been one of the most effective aircrafts, and it is for ground support of troops, highly effective. That in your attack helicopters, but you still want, if you're a troop on the ground, you're happy to have that A-10 having your back. I'm going to tell you that. The troops on the ground or have a lot of comfort knowing this aircraft is out there and has its back. Same thing for the attack helicopters flying around, but a lot of times the attack helicopters are more focused on attacking, but this guy here is focused on supporting the troops, usually. But it is doing attack ground troops. That's why some people think this may be a harbinger of ground troops on the way, because some of these have just been crossing the Atlantic. What we're talking about is, how many here was it? 12. 12 A-10s just crossed the Atlantic Ocean. So there's 12 more on the way. So does that mean we'll have boots on the ground? I don't know. I'm kind of thinking that there's a lot of resistance against doing that. And the Republican Party and the MAGA movement, they're really saying, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it. They don't want to say it. Here we are. Half of Iran's missile launchers are still intact, according to U.S. intelligence. So we hadn't got them all. I mean, guys, if you think about it, Russia's been bombing the snot out of Ukraine for 4 years. What, 4 years now? Starting in 2022. Yeah. It started February 22, 4 years. So, but there's still a lot of stuff in Ukraine. When your missiles you're hitting, have a few hundred pounds of warheads, they blow a hole in the building, but don't necessarily take out the building. And there's so many buildings and targets that the conventional weapons from air don't take out everything. It's just they just don't do it. You can take out a lot of stuff, but like we've already got, between the United States and Israel, probably 22,000 hits on Iran, and they still have half their missile launchers. That's been the primary focus of these attacks. And we know this is true because they're still launching stuff. But this is not foreign intel. This isn't claims by Iran. Our own intel is telling this story. So it's tough to try to take things by air. You don't take anything by air. You can destroy some stuff, break things, but you don't take things. You can break things, but you don't take things. There we go. We got a poem going here. Where's Johnny Cochran at, right? If it don't fit, don't quit. IRGC claims to have attacked the Dubai Oracle data center. So they've been saying they're going to hit data centers, and Oracle was one of the ones they pointed out, and they said they hit it. Now, did they not? Why are we only hearing this from them? We hadn't heard a report refuting that, so they probably did. Now, here's what CTO was it, Chief Technical Officer, Palantir. He's saying that, hey, the United States only has 8 days worth of weapons if we get involved with China now. It used to be 2 weeks worth. Well, we've used a lot of that stuff. So I'm surprised we have that after all the munitions we've been going through. Anyway, he's claiming we have 8 days worth of weapons in a hypothetical Chinese battle. Oh, that ain't enough, my friends. That's one of the reasons I've been reluctant on this whole Iranian thing. Is that Iran was a threat. A lot of you people don't think they were. They were, but nowhere near the level that China is. If this is successful in helping to contain China, it might be worth it from that standpoint, from that view. But or from the view of the threat aspect of Iran itself. The biggest threat we face in the United States, biggest foreign threat, is Iran. Now we do, like I said, our government gets too big. You got the state of deep, which is not our friend. You got the elites that have influenced this country. They're not our friends. The ones that fly to Davos in their jets and dine on caviar, while plotting for you to eat some bugs if you're permitted to live in their world, which they definitely want some depopulation going on. They've told us that many times in the past. But then again, you got the Chinese who want to wipe us all out. They're not our friends, folks. They're not our friends. They're our biggest existential threat in the world. We have, and then we got the Democrats who want to throw open their borders and let all the drug traffickers and human traffickers in. They're not our friends. We have enemies, foreign and domestic, and plenty of them. So that's something we've got to be eternally resilient against. And I tell you guys this, I just did a video over on my Swivelhead News channel And I put out the ugly truth to you, and a lot of you ain't going to like it. So go to my Swivelhead channel and take your dose of medicine. You're not going to like it probably, but I put it out. It's brutal. It's not there to be fun. It's probably put my existence in danger on the platform here, but some things have to be said. So just go look at my last live stream on Swivelhead News and you'll see it. Um, and I was brutal and honest. And you'll know where I'm coming from when you watch that video. There will be no doubt in your mind. So go watch that. And you might unsubscribe once you watch it. You might get mad at me. That's fine, because sometimes things have to be said. I said it. All right. Iranian dissident. I can't even talk tonight. Increasingly, pardon me, guys. Increasingly confident the Islamic Republic is taking this last breath. There's, I've said on here that, how in the world is the opposition inside Iran, the protesters, possibly ever going to take over when they got no bang bangs? Well, some of them are thinking that it's just going to fall apart over there, including some of the dissidents. They're hopeful. Now, is this just wild hope? Like somebody buying a lottery ticket? Oh, yeah, I'm going to win. I mean, as you heard someone to buy a lottery ticket, yeah, I'm going to win this. When her chances are vastly less than a snowball in Hades. Anyway, they might. There's another article which suggests that they do have more hope here. And it's right here. If I can get it to change to it. Clicking on, there we go. And you got to click on something to get these stupid ads off the top. Don't want to. Oh, I just killed the article I was trying to show you. Anyway, I'll just talk I'll talk to it. I don't have to show it. Basically, it was saying a lot of the tenets, a lot of the things that support the Iranian regime are falling apart. The elements of faith, the fact that the IRGC selected the supreme leader, and they did it in a family dynastic line of succession, which was against the whole principles of the Islamic Revolution in the first place. They said they didn't want a dynastic line of succession because they were against the Shah, and the royalty had been there before. So they were claiming they wouldn't be royalty, but by putting the son of Khamenei, Ali Khamenei, the prior supreme leader, in charge, they essentially did what they said they were against. And the fact he's rumored to be gay also is a big violation of their faith. They people that have that persuasion tend to take flying lessons off the top of buildings, or they wind up playing the role of a pinata, hanging and getting beaten while they're hanging by their neck. So that is something that they try to, people that persuasion, they usually wind up pushing daisies real fast once it's been known that they're of that persuasion. So, but he was supposedly a hardliner. And so the ARG selected him, and maybe he's comatose. And so they can speak for him without him having to speak, and they'll just keep it secret. Kind of like the Weekend at Bernie's. Okay, this guy's never going to talk, but we'll always do the talking for because nobody's ever seen him since he's been hit. He's not been public, but he puts out all these statements. Well, who's really making the words in the statements? We don't know. Probably some other IRGC member. Donald Trump's tried to call him out. Says, I believe he's either dead or comatose. And he may be right on that. And again, maybe he's just laying low because he knows as soon as he peeks out somewhere, he's going to be taken out. That's a possibility. But a lot of the tenets of what the Islamic Revolution is supposed to be all about have been broken and shattered. And so it might be that also saying how they've got hit so hard, it may cause a lot of people to lose faith. in their system and what they believed in, because their allies obviously not protecting them very well. Of course, they may say, well, if we survive at all, then that proves he's great and we made it. I don't know. But a lot of the command structure has been shattered. But then they had anticipated that and tried to prepare their survival for that by decentralizing their command structure and having authority to do that by putting every provincial IRGC commander in charge of IRGC forces in that province, 31 different provinces in Iran. So, yeah, they had an official name for that program. I forgot what it was. I showed it to you recently. But in any event, so this whole thing is up in the air somewhat. But the fact also that the economy is breaking, that the RGC is also an economic engine, because something like 30 to 50% of the Iranian economy is dominated by companies that have been set up by RGC members. They're self-funding through their own companies. So that is definitely being tread on real hard. That also gives them a lot of resilience within their system. But the fact of the matter is, most of the people are hard set against them. They may find other ways, asymmetric ways to resist them, to basically pull the props out from under them, to make it fall apart, but simply not supporting them. I mean, if everybody in the country just backs off and don't support the government, at some point it's going to fall. If they are successful with that, it don't have to be through protest necessarily. Protest tends to get them taken out. But I do think, still to this day, that the best thing the United States can do at this point, not putting boots on the ground. Now, that's part of what that article said. That, yeah, there would be boots. There's a Israeli that said this. Maybe I've got this article pulled. It's another article. An Israeli commander. Oh, no, it was who was? It was the ambassador, Israel's ambassador to the U.S. He said that what we need is boots on the ground, but not our boots, Iranian boots. And he's actually right on that comment. But what needs to happen is we need to arm them. We need to drop rifles and ammo over there for those people in secure drop areas that we can define and verify through the same means that Israel verifies when protesters call in strikes on the Basij forces of the RGC. They've been doing that. I reported that back a couple weeks ago. If you use those communications methods to verify that you are talking to the right people and they've got a secure drop zone, then you can drop in small arms. And that is exactly, M4 is considered, M16 is considered small arms. It's not artillery, okay? It's personal scale armaments. So this is what they ought to do, and they ought to do it in scale and mass, and then let the Iranian people take care of things. Yeah, we should focus on hitting barracks, garrisons, motor pools, military facilities, wherever you think that the IRGC, the Iranian military is at, in order to knock down whatever these people got to fight against, to give them a chance to take the republic, take that and turn it into a real republic, because that's where the majority of the Iranians are at. So this would enable them to seek their own freedom, and then the Strait, they'd be friendly with the West. The Strait of Hormuz issue would be resolved, and China would lose, and Russia both would lose a major ally in a critical area. It would break the Belt and Roads Initiative of China, because Iran sits right smack dab in the middle of it. So it would have huge effects if you could have a complete regime change. Now, Donald Trump says, well, we have had a regime change. And in essence, he's right in that the people that were in charge are no longer there. But the regime itself is still existent, but in a little different form. The RGC is taken over. That's pretty evident. They're extreme hardliners, but that's the downside of it. So there's a lot that remains to be seen. If the people do rise up and take over, it probably isn't going to happen overnight. They may have another big protest, but protest itself probably isn't going to do the job. It's probably going to take some asymmetric activity on their end. But the best thing that could happen would be to arm them. Just give them the arms and then step back and let them take over. And at some point, that might be what Donald Trump's plans are. Uh, but again, there's still talk about maybe using the Marines to take certain key islands to help open the Strait up. But I talked about that from way back. What the MEU 31 from the USS Tripoli can do. I've talked about their theories for forward basing, how they could take islands and basically put aircraft on them and air defense systems. But we're kind of short on air defense munitions, so that makes that a little more challenging. And so we'll just have to see how this plays out. All that said, I'll be checking the chat here in a little bit, guys. I'm just monitoring, see if there's any big colors come in. For some of those super chat in, I'll give credit for that immediately. But I will scan through the chat here in a little bit. I'm through with most of the news. I got a few more articles I'm going to show. We've already been on for how long? This don't tell me. That's why I like having the computer on my shoulder. Okay, is this going to collect the next article or not? Yeah, 40 countries. Oh yeah, 40 countries have formed. Oh yeah, I forgot I wasn't reading that article. 40 countries have formed a coalition to try to open the Strait of Hormuz. Originally, we were getting Arabic countries in. Apparently, European countries involved in that. And this thing won't scroll, and now it's scrolling. Yeah, here's the pipeline that's talking about that the Gulf states are talking about building to get oil out. Pipeline transmission of oil is more expensive, fairly bit more expensive than putting it on tanker ships. But right now, considering all the risk of using the Strait of Hormuz and considering the Iranians if you do get through, they want to put a tariff, a toll fee on. Hey, we did get a super chat. There we go. And C. Shelley. Well, thank you, C. Shelley. Happy Resurrection Day. Thank you, C. Shelley. Appreciate that. And amen to the upcoming celebration of Easter. He is risen. Thank you. So, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said on Monday that the only solution to the Strait of Hormuz crisis would be to reroute the pipelines to gain greater access to the Mediterranean. Well, he wants those pipelines going through Israel. Will they go through Israel or not? Yes, it remains to be seen. Saudi Arabia could take them to the Red Sea, which might be a shorter route for them. And so maybe Israel, Netanyahu, he's looking after his own self-interest here. Of course, if he becomes a port terminal, he could get it straight to the Mediterranean, and that would put him in better graces with the other. There is the Abraham Accords, where a lot of the Sunni Arab nations are making peace with Israel right now. It's primarily been the Shia who've been pushing against Israel, and Shia proxies that were arranged by Iran. Now, the Hamas is not Shia, but Hamas is under huge duress from Israel, and they were courted. They've fallen in the proxy group of the Iranians because Iran has supported Hamas directly, even though they're not Shia. However, the Sunni Arabic nations do not want to take exiles from Gaza. I guess they think they're a little too extreme. That seems to be the case. They will not take the exiles. Trump tried to negotiate a way for them to go somewhere else, and they all said, we don't want none of it. We don't want these people coming to our countries. So that's even countries like Jordan, which have a lot of Palestinian refugees living there already. A lot of the Jordanians are actually Palestinians. I've worked with a couple of Jordanians who were actually Palestinian refugees from earlier on, but the refugees that came over earlier apparently are not as fanatic as the ones in Gaza. In Gaza, a lot of people were trying, they wanted peace, and the Hamas was attacking their fellow countrymen in Gaza who were supporting peace, to try to end all this stuff. They actually attacked them. So Hamas is, they're a cruel organization. Don't think otherwise. All right, what do we got here? Later, Gator. Let's click this X here. So, French and Japanese owned ships have made the Hormuz crossing. Well, Japan is an ally of ours, but somehow they got a ship through the Strait of Hormuz. I don't know if this is it. So, a French container ship and a Japanese owned tanker. So that was a container ship above, not a tanker. So, so we get some crossing. Some activity has been going on. Just a trickle of ships have been able to make that crossing. So how do they arrange that and not get shot at? Did they just take a chance? Well, French probably are in bed with Iran. Japan, not so. So that's kind of interesting. Kind of interesting. So Iran to face every diplomatic, economic measure over the Strait of Hormuz. So anyway, all right, my article, don't want to scroll here. Scroll it off the scroll bar. Yeah, okay. So this is this coalition of countries I was talking about earlier. And this is the independent. I think this is a British rag here. This is coming from. Yeah, Britain is seeking a diplomatic initiative. So when this lady they're talking about, Miss Cooper here, this is all British stuff. Yeah, you can see the British flag behind her. So now this is interesting. General Kellogg, he is calling NATO cowards, proposes a new alliance. So he's saying there ought to be an alliance that includes Ukraine. Well, then let that just be a European alliance and count us out. Count us out, in my humble opinion. So yeah, he was a presidential envoy for Ukraine, U.S. presidential envoy, Keith Kellogg, Lieutenant General Keith Kellogg. But he's calling for a new alliance, hopefully that excludes the United States. But he's saying it should include countries like Japan, Australia, Germany, Poland. I don't know what they want to do with Europe. So I don't know about that. It sounds like he wants a greater NATO. I think there should be just a European alliance. Europe should be looking after their own business, and they don't do that very well because they've been relying on Big Daddy, United States, for a long time. And the United States still puts in 60% of the funding of NATO, and most of it is focused on defending Europe. And we can see that they're not willing to support their own alliance members and anything other than defending Europe. So, given that, we should just say goodbye. We've saved their rear ends in World War One, World War Two. We propped up their reconstruction with the Marshall Plan. We bought their products, and they've had um, what do you call it, tariffs against us the whole time. So suddenly, when Trump talks about putting counter tariffs up there, everybody comes unglued, which is stupid. Uh, but when I was in the military, and we were in the role of defending Europe against, and NATO against Russia. Back then Russia was the Soviet Union. The Soviet Union's philosophy was supposedly world domination, because that was a tenet of Marxism. And Karl Marx, believed that, communism wouldn't work until the whole world became communist. So, very much that was their philosophy, at least on books and paper and claims, world domination. And so to keep communism dominating the world, we were defending ourselves from the Soviet Union. Russia's not the Soviet Union. It's got a lot of what was the Soviet Union, but they're also not a communist country anymore. But still, they got some aggressive tendencies because they want to build a greater outer perimeter to keep themselves from being invaded. That's something that goes back to Catherine the Great and Peter the Great. And Putin is just emulating that. That's a Russian way of thinking from way back before the Soviet Union. And the Soviet Union just further enabled them and stayed with that philosophy, which had been a historic philosophy of their country, but they had to subjugate a lot of other people to make that philosophy work. And that's not right. I do believe that everybody should have the right of self-determination. Ukraine should have the right to determine they're not part of Russia, but Eastern Ukraine should have the right to determine they're not part of Ukraine if they want to. You see what I'm saying? And it seems a lot of people don't support that. But I think this should be a European affair, and we ought to get the heck out of it because Europe never stood up. Back in the Cold War, the European countries were not paying for their defense, and they were competing with us economically. They put tariffs on goods from us. But what really frosted me was they would look down their bony nose of England nation at us and just call us cowboys as if that was something derogatory. Now, personally, I think cowboys in America ought to be proud of being cowboys. Now, to them, that was a derogatory term, and they did. They looked down on us as we saved their keisters. As we were propping them up, they were looking down on us as if they were morally superior. And that's the attitude that they take with their World Economic Forum and all these other things they have in this day. They still, they're promoting globalism, but somehow they think they're superior to us. And yet we're over there spending our money, our treasure, the blood of our kids in their defense. I say, bull guano. No, pull out. Let them take care of themselves. And if the Ruski tanks roll through, well, it's their fault. Quite frankly, they are weak. Quite frankly, they are cowards. Ukraine's got a bigger military than all the rest of Europe put together. And Ukraine's struggling. If Ukraine does fall, Russian tanks, if they want to, they could roll all the way through Paris if they so chose. Just because the rest of Europe is weak right now. Now, there are people in Europe that want to turn that around. Historically, ever since the Islamic conquest that was trying to take Europe was been thwarted, Europeans used to put up a martial very tough defense. Europeans were used to be tough fighters, and they kept those people out of the continent for a long time by eternal vigilance, fighting to preserve their freedoms. They did that for a long, long time. And then they just, last few decades, kind of let the guard down. But it's because of the philosophy of globalism. I think the vast majority of people in Europe do not like that. And they're beginning to show it now because they're starting to vote out some of these people, the globalist ilk, in their countries. So Europe does have hopes. They might be able to take their continent back and stand up for themselves. They can do that if they so choose, because collectively the European countries have a bigger GDP than the United States. You got more people. So why is the United States with a smaller GDP and less people defending Europe? I mean, does that make sense? That we've got to cover them? If you think that we need to cover the defense of Europe, put a 1 in the chat room. I want to see what you guys think. If you don't think we need to cover the defense of Europe, then that Europeans should be able to take care of their own business, put a 2 in the chat room. That's not an anti-European stand, by the way. Maybe what a lot of people, that Greg's anti-European. No, I'm not. I'm just saying they ought to be able to take care of themselves. I believe they can if they would do it, but they got to wake up. The liberal left in Europe isn't going to do the job. Keir Starmer is not going to do the job. The French Macron, however you say that, I call him macaroni, he's not going to do the job. He's talking about extending his nuclear umbrella to Europe. He's got some fantasy of being another Napoleon, I think. So I'm starting to see some answers. GG, thanks for the show. 0, you voting 0? Whoosh. Got a couple 2s in the chat room. All right. So, hey, Keith in Arizona. Hey, I need to talk to you soon, buddy. We need to talk. He lives close by. I've actually met him on occasion. I need to talk with him soon. Anyway, it's just what I'm thinking, guys. We have spent a lot of blood and treasure, and frankly, we're broke. And they're not supporting us, so why don't we need to be supporting them? The United States is now what, 39 trillion, we're almost $40 trillion in debt. So why do we need to be spending our money supporting a continent that has a bigger GDP than us? One that we helped rebuild with the Marshall Plan that they tore themselves apart in World War II. You know, when we sent our troops, my granddad fought in World War I. My dad fought in World War II. I was there in the Cold War. So me and my older brother both. And I got a couple uncles that was involved in Korea and the Vietnam War. Uh, so, and that's basically proxy wars and the Cold War. That's what that really boiled down to. So, yeah, this is something to take into account. And I think he's right in calling them NATO cowards. And that doesn't mean the people of Europe are, but it means that the organizations, you know, our dear friends at the House of Klaus. So now some are claiming that Iran was behind what happened to Charlie Clerk. If that's so, did this guy do it? I don't know. This is kind of a, call it a shocking claim. I got a few issues with this, even though I wouldn't put it past them. Because I guess what they're saying is, Joe, that Charlie Clerk was pro-Israel. And he was in the college campuses trying to convert people over, and Iran might have considered that a threat. But the thing that disturbs me, I actually, because of the evaluation by oh shit, what's his name? The Peak Prosperity Channel. What's his name that runs that channel? Chris. Shit, I'm getting John Blank, guys. I don't remember senior moment. But Peak Prosperity is a great channel, and the guy who speaking on there all the time, he is a brilliant analyst, and I'm getting brain locked right now. But somebody can name him in here for me. Help me out, guys. Chris Martin. Yeah, Martinson. So he is a brilliant analyst, I think. He really, his analysis, he does detailed sound analysis of the gun, of the shot taken from multiple locations. He puts it all together all the time. He understands ballistics. He understands weapons. He understands what a round will do in tissues, testing ballistic gels. He come up with the best answer, far better than a lot of other YouTube channels and their military wags who think they're talking stuff and they're talking crazy theories. He put it together, and he wasn't guessing 50 different things. And some of these channels, well, it was this, it was this, it was this. And here's the absolute proof it was this. Nope, it was this. You know, you hear so much of that, it was just made my head explode. That's why I quit talking about it. A lot of people are following some of those numbskull ideas. I knew definitely wasn't some little pocket pistol. Some people were alleging. It was definitely a high caliber, and you could hear the shot. It was definitely a high caliber rifle. Uh, and it came at a higher angle than what this guy was at. I don't think this guy did it. But the fact they pointed this guy out so fast, before they got him, they were showing pictures of this guy going up the stairs. I think he was a patsy. I think he was set up. And to run an operation where you got a patsy set up and somebody else gets in and out, not caught. And the way the local law enforcement ran this thing from the beginning makes me highly suspicious vis-a-vis them and possibly even the FBI. The way this all went down makes me highly suspicious. And that's putting it mildly. I've not talked very much about this. I've talked it some, but I've not dwelt on it. But, you know, some things like this make you wonder. And what they found out was the bullet didn't match the rifle. If it don't fit, don't quit, right? course, that case with the glove with the OJ, he took his hand, made it like this before he tried to put the glove on. You can't put on no glove like that. That was silly. It don't fit. Look. Well, he postured his hand so that it wouldn't fit. I mean, I take a glove I wear every day and make my hand like that, and it ain't going to go on. But that's what he did. He took his hand. He did that. Remember, OJ? Remember your Senate man? He did this with his hand. He tried to slip the glove on. The cockers. Well, look, if it don't fit, don't fit. It don't mean the glove didn't fit, but still, the saying, the rhyme, kind of works, and I think it might fit with that situation there. So, now I've seen an article. I'm not going to show it tonight. There's an article out trying to rationalize why that round doesn't appear to fit. And maybe it's right, but let's just say there's plenty to be suspicious of in this case. Plenty to really question. So, yeah, we're changing these. We're covering a few other little things now. We're getting off the Iranian thing. Fresh evidence that China's commies are setting the agenda for America's left. And here we're talking about our good Royce Singman, of course, Neville Royce Singman. Reports that relatives of Chinese Communist Party billionaire tool Neville Royce Singman are playing a key role in far-left political circles in New York are on the latest evidence of the nefarious influence in party politics across the country. And so this stuff is coming out more and more and more. Democratic Socialists of America supporting Mayor Zoran Mamdani. Mamdani, that's a funny name. Mamdani. Yes, ma'am, Mamdani. Danny with D-A-N-I is kind of feminine. Mamdani, it sounds kind of double feminine to me. So kind of interesting name for a Muslim. But anyway, so yeah, guys, that's what we're looking at. I'm not going to go into this article. I might do it on Soul Head News one day. But yeah, I've talked about this ad nauseum. Royce Singman, the Chinese Communist Party, they're working hard to divide this country. Back in the days of the Soviet Union, the Russians were doing it. I'd say the Soviets were doing it. Let's put it that way. So this is going on today with China. So a lot of the stuff we're getting from the political left comes straight from the CCP. Now, if you are in Yuma, Arizona, you got air quality issues there. In eastern California, southwestern Arizona, they're telling people to stay indoors, to not open your windows because the air quality is so bad, it's toxic. Now, we got a few people in here. I got a friend, I don't know if she's in here tonight, who lives not too far from there. So they got an 80-mile stretch where the fine particulate matter, PM 2.5, is at levels to be a noxious toxin, according to the EPA. So if you're in that area of Arizona, around Yuma Proving Grounds, Yuma, stay indoors. That's a pretty terrible thing to have to face. So we can't go outside. All righty, guys. Yeah, we're wrapping up the news here. We're about to hit the weather here in a second. Ow, if I can get the close button to work. A group of astronomers, amateur astronomers, just heard a signal from Voyager 1 spacecraft, 25 billion kilometers away. Now, flat earthers talk about, well, NASA's hiding everything. NASA this, NASA this, NASA that, everything. NASA controls everything. No. You got amateur radio people, got nothing to do with NASA, who actually launch their own satellites. They monitor satellites. They listen to them through ham radio. They try to track everything they can just to sharpen their technical skills. It's kind of a game for them. Picking up Voyager's so far away, the signal is so weak, and I think the transmitter is something like 10 watts. And it takes a really big antenna, giant radio telescope type antenna to see that. I do know, I got a friend. He's not a direct friend. He's kind of a friend of a friend. I have talked with him. There's a guy up in Salinas, Kansas. This guy was personally owns one of those giant big radio dishes. I think he bought it surplus or somehow. I forgot how he acquired it. But he actually has one of those big dishes. He might have been involved with this. He lives in Salinas, Kansas. I drove through there one time coming back from a conference in Denver, going back to Alabama. I didn't stop to see him because I was in a hurry. Um, so this is people are yeah, that's Voyager 1. That thing is way out there right now. So that was kudos to them for being to detect that. You've got a lot of amateur satellite watchers. I used to run software to watch Mir space station fly over, and for a while the International Space Station. Of course, I'd get other satellites sometimes, go outside and watch them fly over. Uh, and guys, all this goes against flat Earth, and some of the things those guys are saying. There's a lot of universities, there's small organizations, small companies, and a lot of other countries involved in space, including military. It's not just NASA, folks. There's no way NASA could own the domain and discussion about space. Oh yeah, and the whole idea of a circular, spherical Earth originated at least 200 years before Christ, because the Greeks not only determined that the earth was spherical, they actually correctly calculated its diameter based on shadows and wells that were something like 100 kilometers apart in Egypt. That was when the Greeks had taken Egypt, and the Greeks society in Egypt was ran from Alexandria. So, all right, let's talk about something fun. I like to do something fun sometimes in these videos. We got some monsters up in the Appalachian rivers. And in Appalachian, we're not just talking Bigfoot. We got a water monster. And so what this is talking about here, car-sized creatures hiding underwater. If you lived anywhere along the Tennessee River, I was born next to the Tennessee River, by the way. Uh, then you'll know probably what I'm talking about. They're big catfish, especially near the dams. I remember my dad saying that some divers had come up from Gunnersville Dam and said that they're not going to go down there in the water. They don't know where around there. They said there's catfish there big enough to swallow them, and that they're huge. And it scared them. This is decades ago. I heard this stuff when I was a kid. And of course, everybody anywhere along the rivers heard of channel cats, giant catfish that live on the bottom of the rivers. And some of these things are humongous. But at the bottom of these dams, what happens is you got the turbines in the dam that basically take all the water fish in the stream, get caught in it and go downstream. They get cut up. And so you get a lot of fish debris being thrown out and settling on the bottom. And catfish are bottom feeders. So the ones there, you can just eat and eat and eat. And the fish never stops growing as long as it's alive. So as long as this guy, fish can live for a long time. So this guy here is talking about when he was a kid, he saw one that was as big as a bus. It scared him. And, this was near some other dam in Appalachia, on the Tennessee River. You got Tennessee River Authority, TVA, Tennessee Valley Authority, excuse me, that has set up all these dams. The one he was talking about was Watts Bar. The Watts Bar Dam. It's on the Tennessee River. He said to me, he was a kid when he saw it, he said it looked like it was bigger than a school bus. So he says, these catfish probably weigh 2,000 to 3,000 pounds, and yeah, they could swallow you all at one time. So we do have monsters, and these are big catfish monsters. And I've heard reports of these forever. So yeah, there probably are there. So yeah, he said, "Hey, I wouldn't be swimming in these rivers." So yeah, he's like scared of them. I tell you, I knew about these things all my life, and I still went swimming in the Tennessee River as a kid. I almost drowned doing that on one occasion. I think I've told that story on here. Not, maybe I will again one day. All right, so and the White House is seeking $1.5 trillion for defense this next year. $1.5 trillion. Unfortunately, it's not going to save my job for the next 9 months when I need it. But $1.5 trillion. That is 50% bigger than right now. It's $1 trillion, just under a trillion, I think. But now they're talking about 1.5 trillion. You'll fund the Golden Dome and build replacements for all the missiles we've been shooting. That we need to replace. But there's also DARPA and some of the federal agencies are looking at coming up with some cheaper missiles than the ones we've been using. And that needs to be done. All right, 2 more articles. Space weather and earthquakes. We got a lot of earthquakes. The Aleutian Island chain from out here all the way up into actually mainland Alaska, there's just an arc of earthquakes, constant in this area. Constant earthquakes. We got anybody from Alaska who have Mag Rising or Shaggy in the house tonight? Here on Attu Island, they had the 4.6, had a 5 point something earlier. Let me zoom in and find that. Yeah, they had a 5.1, I think, also. I'm clicking on one of them. I'm not clicking the other. There it is. 4 point. All right, now they're showing 2 in the 4 point range. So I guess the 5.1 time is expired for the duration, what they're showing here on this website. But they had a large earthquake. So they've had 3. And the Puerto Ricans are just, hey, guys, it's Friday night, Saturday morning. The Puerto Ricans are partying. They're dancing hard. You saw the earthquakes down and shaking the ground. There's always earthquakes right here at the point of the Juan de Fuca plate, Petroleum, California. That place just always is quaking. Well, that plate has that point down there at the end because you got the convergence here of 3 plates. So I guess that makes that a very earthquake-prone zone. Valmy, Nevada. Why do we keep saying Valmy, Nevada? We see Valmy, Nevada on here a lot. Small quakes. It must be some kind of volcanic activity. I've been seeing that for a long time in Valmy, Nevada. What is it about that? Anybody know that? Anybody from Nevada? Now we got a couple earthquakes over here. Let's see if I can get the larger one on the outside. 5.9 in Indonesia. 5.9. And then we got Afghanistan, I think Tajikistan above it. Yeah, Tajikistan 5.5. Tajikistan 5.8 in Afghanistan. And we got a 5.1 in Turkey. New Zealand got a direct one here. Look at this, guys, for the click. Come on, click, would you? 5.0. Hicks Bay, New Zealand. Up here in the islands, Tonga, 4.6. Tonga. Looks like everything just refreshed. Tonga is a very frequent earthquake area. Over here in Indonesia, got one. Got one here just north of the Philippines. This Mayakajima, I don't know how you can pronounce that, Japanese island. Oh, that's just east of Guam. So a lot of shaking going on. We got a fresh one over here in Chile, 4.8. Let's look at the Aleutian Island area. Let's look at this whole arc of earthquakes here. A lot of times they go all the way up to Denali, but not tonight. Come on, I'm trying to get this thing to click. My clicker don't work too well. Whoop, clicked and unclicked. 2.5, Beluga, Alaska. Okay. Let's look at space weather. We'll do that, and that'll be our last news item. Then we'll just talk chat, and we'll do our egg guess for today. And we'll call it at night. It's already almost 3 in the morning. I got somebody coming here at 8 in the morning. Sunspots. There's a lot of them, but they're not giant. That's good news. A lot of sunspots, but they're not ginormous. That's good for our crew on Artemis 2. Last thing they need is a major solar storm while they route to the moon. By the way, they do have their engine section of the service module, which is called, the European service module. The service module comes from Europe. So the Europeans are participating in the Artemis program. The service module comes from Europe, and its engine, all the mass of that, and the heat shield are facing the sun. So what you need to avoid those particles is as much shielding as you can get. So they're using as much of the spacecraft as possible. And that heat shield is pretty thick. That'll help them if they do get hit by a solar storm. As long as they can keep it in that attitude. Now, if they're on the surface where they don't have a lot of stuff to shield them, they're not going to land. So what you need to do if you operate on the surface of the moon is you need to build a shelter with a lot of lunar regolith, and that's what you call, it's not soil on the moon because it's not organic. It's just smashed up pieces of rock. That's why they call it regolith, smashed into a powder, pulverized by all the meteorites it's hit, over the many, many, many years. Billions and billions of Carl Sagan's years. So my cat's saying billions and billions. Which one of you meowing so much? Oh, they're fighting back behind me. That's why they're making so much traffic. So the only asteroid of interest right now that we know of coming between the Earth and the Moon is the one that's coming on the 14th of April. So there's no big news there. It's 70% of the way toward the Moon instead of the Earth. And our friends from Orion will be back. Orion capsule will be back home by then. Otherwise, they might wave hi to that asteroid on their way through. Anyway, so there you have that. Nothing to worry about. An asteroid report, nothing we know about. It's a threat. Solar storms, we got one, a little semi-impact. So we're talking in the moderate level of G1 to G2. So nothing greatly concerning there. We have some aurora activity, but it's not super strong. Nothing in the yellows and reds here. And in fact, the auroras you will see will be green veils and circles like depicted here. So it helps to be in Alaska. Yeah, if you're in Alaska right now, you'll be seeing some aurora. I was seeing a lot of that back when I lived up there. I lived in Alaska for 2 years. In case y'all don't know, I'm going to stop the share. Now, for our morning coffee club members, the people that watch this when they're getting ready to go to work, school, or whatever, that concludes the news segment of this broadcast. I am going to go into the chat room for a little bit, and I will do the egg guess a little bit, and then we're going to call it a night. We've been really long on the news because it's been a few days since I brought you news here on Green Gregs. I've covered some stuff on Galactic Gregs and Silverhead News. On Silverhead News, there was something that was really bothering me. I thought I needed to reach out to you guys with that's not going to be too popular. That's why I said that's the brutal truth. So sometimes you got to take your medicine. And nothing better than washing it down with coffee. But you're up in the desert, you got to drink some water. I always drink my water, so I had a drop in there. That's it. So yeah, keeping the voice going when I'm talking. Okay, now hear the cats. These cats are not. What's up, cats? I'm now being invaded. They just woke up. They're about to launch attack mode on me. All right, let me go to the chat room in here. Look at this one here. See what you guys are saying. It's hard to read on the phone. It's so small. I just got my phone going. Well, so once again, I want to thank C. Shelley for the generous donation. Thank you, C. Shelley. And she said, thanks for sharing with us. Happy Resurrection Day Sunday. Indeed. Here we got Easter right upon us. I might do we just got through Good Friday last Friday. All right, so let's see, before now. To me, it's still Friday, right? So we've had our Palm Sunday last week. So let's see, Alpha Omega Survival Supply, Bulldog. New Days, good morning. Nicholas, Fiorachi, if I'm saying it right. Arnold Schmidt, how you doing? And Susie Beeman, oh, you came on with your name tonight. Not your old handle. Good to see you in the house. The cats are running now. Yeah, attack mode has started. We got 40 minutes of sheer terror in this house. All right, New, how you doing? He is in the land of bloody barbarians. Oh, yeah, that is true. That is true. But there are some people that don't cotton to that. But the country is being run that way. Yeah, I worry about that pilot. I hope he makes it home safe. He or she. We actually don't know this, the pilot or the weapons officer in that flight. What do they say? Batten down the hatches. Oh, what's going on, guys? Oh, got some storms running through the area. Okay. Yeah, that's one reason I'm glad to be out here. I don't get the storms I used to see, especially the tornadoes. I'm not going to read every chat because you guys are talking to each other. That's good. That's what y'all need to do. We're a community. We're a family here. Thank you for calling the thumbs up. See, Shelly? Oh, I know Alpha, but this Rocket Man can't sing like Elton. Well. I try to sing a little bit, but I can't promise you the quality of the voice. My voice is a little cracky now. I got pipes, but I don't have the voice to go with it. Yeah, I can project sound. My youngest daughter has got the pipes, and she's got the voice. She sung opera. She's really good. Really good. I told you, the red bully tearing apart. Oh my gosh, cats! These cats are wild. They're breaking my house. Yeah. Peppermint Patty, praying for our troops. Amen. We need to pray for our troops. We had significant snow yesterday. Well, Peppermint, how much snow did you get and where you're at? Where are you at? It's supposed to be 54. Love the springtime. Oh, I've made some a better mood after getting off my chest last night. Okay. Yeah, I'd been weighing on me for a while. I felt like I needed to bring it to you guys. So I took it over on Soilhead News because it was very political, and that channel is more politically focused than this one. That's kind of, I set it up like that. Like I said, you might want to catch that. But anyway, hey, I don't ask y'all to agree with me. You don't have to agree with me. You're free to disagree even in the chat. We are a family, but just keep it civil. If discourse is important. We need discourse in the society. A lot of people try to shut the discourse down, and I'm against that. So I'm going to promote discourse. So if you don't agree with me, tell me what you think. Tell me something good. Wow. Let's see. JFK, Epstein, and my resignation files are on my desk. Can't London the bonding. Now, what do you mean can't London the body? Can't London the bondy. I don't know what you mean by can't London. Anyway, yeah. Well, Bondi's gone. I thought they should have booted Bondi a long time ago. I've not been a member of her fan club. If you remember, I put out a video. I might have done it on Soulhead News. I had a thumbnail of Bondi, Cash Patel, and what was his name? Used to have his own radio show, YouTube channel. No, it wasn't on YouTube. He was on uh, what do you call it? Rumble. Uh, I had them all with noses this long, all three of them. Yeah, I'm getting a lot of brain lock lately. Can't Bondo the Bondy. Okay. What's up, Billy Kid? Trying to kill you the night before graduation. What are you talking about, Billy Kid? Simple. Don't smell right. Oh, something was on fire. That's not something's on fire. What the heck? Cats, what are y'all doing? Well, you're knocking my radio. You're knocking my stuff over. Cameras. I mean, y'all terrible. Smell. Oh, something's on fire. They're tearing my house apart, literally. Anything they can tear down, they're tearing it down. Anything they can get to, and they're climbing stuff I can get in places I couldn't imagine. I got a big family heirloom portrait from when I was a little kid, my brothers and wives that they destroyed. I don't know how they got to it. It was barricaded. Something smells like fire. Hmm. I don't know. Wish I had a thermal imager. I have no idea what that is. Anyway, thanks. DX Bandit, how you doing? I don't see any fire. I'll turn off all the lights when I finish this video. Buy local, people. Amen, Susie. That's very important. Buy local. Thanks for putting my link in New Days. Now, I'll tell you, I've always said, grow your own food. What you don't grow, try to get it at the farmer's market. But you got a lot of other consumer goods you use besides food. Shampoo, uh, hand lotion. I got where I wouldn't use hand lotion for years. I discovered all the chemicals in hand lotion. I quit using them. I'm the kind of guy, my hands get dry and they stay dry. They did that before I started washing my hands with alcohol. I wash my hands with alcohol all the time. That actually don't bother me. That's my hands were always dry before, and it don't make me drier. But I used to use a lot of hand lotion. I used to like put some on there at night before I go to bed, and I quit doing it until I did the switch back. Now I use hand lotion again because I know I got good stuff. But makeup, of course, I would say the first thing you ought to do is throw away the makeup. Y'all really don't need it. But if you're going to use it, check out what's available through my switchback. All right. See, Shelley, AR is a serious spiritual battleground. Our world is maybe this computer. This thing runs hot all the time. I'm trying to cool it off a little bit. My spritz bottle for alcohol go. What's up, cat? Oh no, I just want to cool it off. Well, here it is. I'm gonna take a piece of paper towel, spritz it down with some alcohol, wipe down the computer. How's that? Evaporates real fast. It takes all the heat away. That's what I'm gonna do here. This thing is getting hot. It's the temperature in here is in the 60s. And this computer's getting hot. If it gets 70, this computer gets crazy hot. I just run it for usually an hour at a time, and I have to shut it down. It's burned out the graphics card, it's burned out the camera, it's burning out my keypad. It's a crazy computer. I've got it propped up. Hang on, guys. I got it propped up to try to help air circulate underneath it from some stuff here. And it still runs hot. I'm gonna have to get rid of this thing. It's dying. What it is these Lenovo's, Yoga Lenovo's. They put too much power in too small of a chassis, and they won't cool. It's systemic to the product. It's systemic to what it is. It's a bad design. The whole philosophy is bad design philosophy. They try to put too much power in too slim a chassis. It don't work. Let's see. Yeah, the whole world is a spiritual battleground right now. That is true on many dimensions. This whole thing with China, what is China? It's an atheistic nation. China actually has a lot of Christian people, but they're severely repressed in China. China represses all religions. They went after the Falun Gong just because they went out and did Tai Chi, basically. They go out in the morning and do their little dances for fitness, which is the most peaceful thing in the world. The Falun Gong were a very peace-oriented organization, and they went out and just started slaughtering them. Basically, they capture them and use them for organ donations. It was terrible what they did to the Falun Gong. So how the Falun Gong responded? Set up a newspaper. They were trying to draw attention to what was happening to them. And then they considered radical movement. If you did that, red-blooded Americans, we'd be doing more than putting out a newspaper. I'm gonna tell you that. Anyway, so that's China, but we got stuff right here in the United States, U.S. of A. And that's one of the things I talked about extensively over in that video I did last night, my last live session. So go ahead and use. I talked about this whole movement where they're trying to contribute to the delinquency of minors through the drag queen story hour. That's definitely delinquency of minors. Should be a federal crime. Just brought back the memories of the stuff they were doing when the school system didn't want parents to know that they were trying to talk people going through puberty into the idea that, well, the issues you're having is because you're not the gender you were born with. You need to be this, you need to be that. So we can give you puberty blockers and we can schedule you to go to the doctor to get butchered. And the parents weren't supposed to have any say in this. Y'all remember all that? That wasn't that long ago. Well, if we're not careful, it's coming back. If you want to understand why I make that, go watch that video. I'll make that assertion. Anyway, um, yeah, and that is evil. That is heinous. This whole thing with the drug gangs in this country, all the lives we're losing, child trafficking, human trafficking, which includes women and children, which is a form of slavery, but it's not just slavery, it's sex slavery, the most heinous form of slavery there is. It's going on right here in the US of A. And we got a certain party that opposes you deporting people that practice in that stuff. They adamantly support repression of that. And the news media only shows when somebody, one of them that's interfering with law enforcement activities. Two of them lost their lives recently, and that's all they focus on. Not the 70,000 people that passed away the year before from F-ball. If you don't know what that is, go back and check out my other videos. Or all the people have been captured through the and trafficked in through their human trafficking networks. Oh no, they don't talk about that at all. What, two people that was resisting law enforcement activities and stuff they had no business doing. That's all they want to cry over. Get the heck out of my face with that crap. I ain't got no room for that. But there's a certain political party that supports that junk. And if we're not careful, they're going to come back in spades and take the House and Senate. And then they will, if they get both houses, impeach and convict and remove both the president and vice president, and probably put the Speaker of the House, who at that point in the future will be Democrat, in charge. And then you're going to see all that stuff come back in spades so fast your head will spin. And you're going to see the new Green Deal roll in. If you think gas prices are bad now, if you're not voting because gas prices are high, wait till you get the new Green Deal in spades. Remember Biden wanted to ban propane? Y'all remember that? Hey, that's how I'm heating my house right now. You out here in the desert, propane is lifeblood. Yeah, they were trying to ban anything and everything that used propane. Excuse me. Stupid cats. They're being crazy over there. But anyway, I'll deal with them when I get down here. So, you want the details? Go to go ahead and use and look at my last live. SEAR, yes. Tactical Matt Foley, yes, SEAR. Absolutely, SEAR. All these pilots get trained, not, I think it's 19 days of SEAR training. Lady Kickboxer, how you doing, Lady Kickboxer? Lady Kicks. All right. Fairchild Aviation. You work for Fairchild? Wonder Von Braun went to Fairchild after he left NASA. Yeah, the A-10 was a warbird. It still is. Still is. I'm glad they didn't get rid of it. Very glad. That's an aircraft we need to keep. We're not tell China that, huh? Satanic PDF files. Ooh, where are those at? Tactical Matt Foley. There's so much satanic stuff in our society, it's not funny. China never fought a war. One thing China fought was their civil war where they ran the KMT out. KMT was the political party of the Republic of China, which went to exile on the island of Formosa, which we now know as Taiwan. Arnold says, your opinions are strictly your own. That's true. Nothing to apologize for. I didn't apologize. Fact-based, experience-based opinions have more weight than a bag of air. I just keep sharing your thoughts. Well, that I did. In spades. I'm not apologizing for it. I sound like I'm sorry. Pun intended. Send in the Iron Shriek. Okay. Keith in Arizona. Civil strife didn't work out very well in Libya or Iraq. Tactical Matt Foley, you're onto it. That's true. Guys, there's a reason we have the right to bear arms. There's a reason that's the Second Amendment. It's up high in the priorities of our founding fathers. What Thomas Jefferson used to say is that every free man have his firearm at his side at all times. And then the liberals go, well, we don't know what they meant by that. They didn't mean that. They meant this, they meant the other. Now, you read what the founding fathers wrote, they were pretty darn clear about what they meant. Thomas Jefferson didn't pull any punches, my friends. He thought the tree of liberty would have to be refreshed with the blood of the patriots about every 50 years. So, yeah, Kellogg is an idiot. Yeah, he may be. Well, there's parts of that I did not agree with, parts of what his article said. But Kellogg's, one of these frosted flakes, bleeding us dry. We are being bled dry. Actually, 3 foot. Oh, three. If it is. These cats are going wild. Actually, three. What if it wasn't for U.S. Mother as a child and her family would have perished? Wow. You know, one of the stories my dad used to tell in World War II is he said that he was there in Germany after the war was over. He said the kids were starving, and he said that he would give food from his sea rations to the kids, and they were like super grateful. One of the things they liked best was there was always this chocolate cookie used to come in the sea rats. We called it a John Wayne bar. When I first went in the Army, we still had sea rats. They transitioned to MREs when I was in the Army. The sea rats go back probably before World War II. They had sea rats for a long time. I think some of the sea rats we had were dated, had the 40s on the dates of the kids. We did sometimes get some old sea rats. Uh, But yeah, they had that chocolate bar, called John Wayne bar. It's always packed with a cracker. Cracker was never crisp, and it tasted like the John Wayne bar. But anyway, so they had. But my dad, well, he said that was her favorite. So when I was working for Northrop Grumman on the Space Station Freedom Program, we had this German named Jürgen Ebenbelt. And Jürgen had, prior to working for us, been a German Air Force officer. He must have been American Air Force because he was flying in Nuke. Yeah, he must have been. Yeah, he came to the United States. He must have been in our Air Force. I don't know. Somehow he went up in his flights. He was a fighter pilot and he carried a nuke around. But he said when he was a kid, he said, I'll never forget when I was a kid, the American servicemen fed me food from their rations. And that really hit home. Because I heard it from my dad giving it, and then I heard it from Jurgen. He was on the receiving end. So I thought, well, that's really powerful. But the service members from our Army would give their own food to the kids. They did it. The kids were starving. Germany was in rough shape. And I'm sure it wasn't just Germany. The entire Europe was destroyed by the Second World War. And we did a Marshall Plan to pull them up. You suppose it was against Iran war as well? I don't know where Kellogg was on that. I could go back and look at that article again. Where was that? Find that article on Kellogg. Kellogg's Frosted Flakes. Oh, shoot. Everything I click on is giving me the same stupid title. That ain't right. This thing is goofy. What is that article with Kellogg? Let's do it again. Wasn't that article? I'm just trying to look at the titles. Too often the titles are getting goofed up. I don't know what the heck with Kellogg. Probably like Colonel McGregor. I don't have any respect for Colonel McGregor, by the way. Bongino, there you go. At least Bongino isn't a cross-dresser. Yeah. Well, I don't know. He seemed to be complicit in some cover up. I don't think Bongino is ever going to get quite the support he used to have. He messed himself up, my humble opinion. Oh, what happened? I went all the way to the bottom of the chat room. How did it do that? Sometimes this thing skips. I'm just trying to read through it, and this thing I know it's at the bottom. I hadn't even read to the bottom. So China, they did try to fight Vietnam, and Vietnam whipped their pants, but that was early on. He did fight in the Vietnam War, not Vietnam War, the Korean War. American forces faced Chinese forces directly in the Korean War. But they do have a lot of equipment. Some of that stuff has not proved itself too well lately. Biggest thing I worry about with China is their biowarfare. That is the biggest threat to us all. Sleep chatting. Hello. Whoosh. Whoosh. International Marine Organization engagement. The coalition is working with the IMO to secure the release of thousands of ships. Well, are you still awake? All right, let's see. Jacob Dannins called Dannins. What's that? Dannins Joe. Jacob, where are you from? That's definitely a European name. You from Jacob? $40 trillion debt is all fictitious money and printing the keyboard is illegal as legal tender. Well, there's that. Van Allen radiation belt. It's a belt. It's not a sphere. They fly over it. That's why it's called a belt. It's thickest at the equator. It's easy to deal with. You fly over it. You don't fly through it. We ain't never flown through it. Actually, you could probably if you fly through it fast. So it is not an issue. You just fly over it. You don't even have to fly over the pole. You just fly over the bulk of it and fly fast up. That's all there is to it. The bulk of it, the biggest, thickest parts are at the equator. It's equatorial. It is a belt, not a sphere. Yes, we have astronauts on the way to the moon. Absolutely, 100%. If you don't buy that, tough noogies. Boggy Creek. Talking about the Boggy Creek monster. What's up, Keith? The only things that are flat are Ford Flathead V8 from the 1930s and a tire. Hey, I got a Ford tractor that's got a flathead engine. So, yeah, it's a 47 Ford 8N. No, 7. Yeah, one of the first 8Ns that ever came out. Halo Coffee Club has arrived. There you go, Marcent. Gen X awakes. I'm starting a commercial worm farm in Africa of African night crawlers. For Worm Tea, love your vids. All right, very good. Yeah, you got to keep them warm in the winter. Now if you're in South Florida, maybe South Texas, you probably don't have to have any supplemental heating for them. I had built a room in my barn I never used when it burnt down that I was planning to outfit to raise night crawlers in. I was going to keep the Africans in there in the wintertime, and then once throughout the equinox season, I was going to switch and put Euros in there in the summertime because Euros really need to be cool in the summer and Africans need to be warm in the winter. So I thought I'd just switch them out. I never got around to that, but that was something I was wanting to do. Whatever you do, don't invest in a screwworm farm. Worm farms can be exceedingly profitable, but just make sure that you don't have to hire labor to do it. Hired labor will wipe you out. That was my lesson I learned. I had a huge investment in it, and the market was there. The market's definitely there, and you can raise the worms, but if you're dependent on hired labor, it will destroy you. It will destroy you. If you got to hire people, no, you can't hire people worth 2 cents. They will wipe you out. They can't pay you enough money to work for you. They're going to hire labor will destroy you today. I am done with that. Unless I can find some exceedingly good people. I think maybe I found a couple around here. So I might re-entertain the idea. Maybe that's why I'm here. I've actually found some people way better than what I had before. I just got to see if they're really up to do the long slog it takes to harvest worms and cats. What are y'all doing? Anyway, variable stacker, USA, USA, USA. There you go. 5 inches, Greg. 5 inches. There you go, Peppermint Patty. Where you at, Peppermint Patty? I had on the 19th of April last year, 7.5 inches right here. It's supposed to go below freezing tonight. It's supposed to get down to like 25, I believe. I have to take omega-3 for dry skin. It works great. Yeah, we got an omega-3, by the way. You have to switch back. Running propane heat. Yeah, right now I just got the pilot light on because I got to keep the temperature down and run this computer. So it's about 65 degrees in here. If it gets to 70, this computer gets too hot. It gets too hot. I'm trying to keep it cool. Yeah, Bongino, that's the name I was trying to think of. Thank you. Bongino. I recognize the candy bomber. Recognize the candy bomber when it was his daughter and stopped and talked to him. Candy Bomber. Is that Linda Moses? Candy Bomber. I love my ThinkPad. Okay. There's a ThinkPad made by IBM too. That IBM products. The Lenovo's are. Lenovo's are just too thin. Wakey, wakey, eggs and bakey. Yeah, I'll probably have eggs in the morning. He flew candy in Germany during airlift War II. Berlin airlift. Hershey bars on handkerchiefs, like parachutes dropped to the children. Oh my gosh. Drift in flame. I learned something new. Okay. My dad always said, the day you learn something new was a day not wasted. Do you do personal concert and paid? Of course. I'm very interested in dedicating. I'm very interested in dedicating. My family won't take me serious. I'd consider that. Gen X Awakens, yes. I would definitely consider that. I could do some consulting. Get your worm farm going. So if you're in Idaho, okay, that is not the best place for African night crawlers. You might want to think about Euros, okay? Now, you can grow Africans, but you can have to keep them warm. Yeah, I'd consider consultant. You can reach me at greg@greengregs.com. Or if you go, what's this channel name? Green Gregs. If you go to greengregs.com, you'll see my email address to bottom of the site, I think. I got to update that website. It was needing an update, but somehow it was on the wrong platform. GoDaddy tried to transition it, and the whole thing got scrambled. It don't look right. It's all messed up. So it needs fixing, but need to fix them before anyway. And one of these days I'll go in and totally redo it, or I may take it down. I'm paying a lot of money for it. I'm not really, the only thing it's been used for right now is my donate button. And I don't even think the donate button is paying from all the expenses I'm spending with GoDaddy to cover it. But I was thinking I might sell worms again nationally in a couple of years. It's going to take a couple of years, a year or two to get my worm herd up to where I want it before I do that. Probably will be within a year selling worms locally. Oh my gosh, the cats are really tearing something up. Oh my gosh, they pull things down. They knock things over. They climb things you would think they couldn't climb. They are, you know, I get cats, I won't have rats, but I'm beginning to think rats might be preferable. I think cats do more damage than rats. Holy smoke, these things they're something. I think that are big enough to kick outdoors. They're going outside. They may go outside sooner than later. Anyway, so sell the worms. I will sell worms locally. I will do what I can do personally. And I'll probably be selling worm tea this year. I plan to sell worm tea this year. I got to order me a air pump though. I got rid of a lot of the stuff I had in Alabama. And now I need another one. So, oh my gosh, cats or something. The Valley of Bighorn Mountains. Oh, West Wyoming. All right. Yeah, I can believe that. I can believe that, Peppermint Patty. Well, I bet that's beautiful. In the Valley of the Bighorn Mountains. I bet it is beautiful up there. Get those tomcat traps. Well, yeah, I used mass traps in Alabama, and they didn't do the job. Cats will take care of things. Look, my cats are outdoors, wiped out a huge rat population in this area. They didn't contain them. They didn't just knock down the numbers. They extincted them. And then there were a whole lot of mice and rats around here. They extincted them. So, and Smokey's pretty lonely out there. It's one reason I got some more cats. He's lonely. He needs some company. Right now, they're tearing me up. Let's see. Of course, that doesn't make sense if you have cats. I thought you was telling me to trap my cats. Well, calm down. I'm liable to. Holy smoke. I've had cats in the house many times, but these are the most active I've ever seen. Most destructive, to be no bigger than they are. I don't know. They're probably okay to send outside. They'll probably scare coyotes away. They're so crazy. Anyway, well, I made the bottom of the chat room. Small strobe lights, specifically for mice deterrents, work for me. Well, that's interesting, peppermint Patty. Strobe lights. Well, my cats outdoors have done the job. They've definitely done it. One of them come up missing. That was a Freddy cat. He he always had a history of wandering off. He used to wander off for a month or two at a time. He's been gone for about 3 months now. Now he was also a very friendly, personable cat, so it might be some. I couldn't keep a collar on him. I did have a collar with a tag on it, but he lost it about the first day I put it on him. It was a tight collar too. These cats, they're genius at getting collars off. So I don't know. Somebody might have just took him in. I don't know. I never didn't see any signs of predation anywhere around my house. And I got cameras all around my house. I hear coyotes out and about, but I haven't seen any of them on the cameras around the house. I got a camera up on the road. I see coyotes on that camera from time to time, but none of the cameras around the house ever get a coyote. There was a dog showed up one day. So, hey, Greg, you think you have problems? My squirrels are the worst home home red redecorators. Nobody, the salt shaker isn't supposed to be in the floor. Well, the problem is they knock over stuff a lot more expensive than salt shakers in here. Surprised they hadn't knocked my coffee maker in the floor yet. It's upon a shelf on the wall by itself. They'll figure out a way to get to it sooner or later. Oh, I had a big family portrait that they destroyed. It was when I was a kid. They are toasters, forget it. I got a couple of cameras here in the house. That's found a way to get to them, knock them down. They're, I don't know. They can get to anything. They smash some of my eggs. They're egg cartons, chewing through them. They can get to them, knocking things over. Anything they can knock over, they're going to knock over. Including my blue lamp back here, they knocked it over, and I tried to squirrel it away between some stuff up in the wall where they couldn't do that when I finished my videos. I pulled it out to do the video, but part of the stuff that Susan put on it has been broken off. So we got some of the Rocket Santa Claus stuff on it, but his legs got broken off. Yeah, they knock everything over. They're highly destructive. I bought them some expensive toys. They'll play with it for a day, and it'll give my house a day of relief. And you get bored with it, and they turn back on the house the next day. Right now, they're chasing each other back and forth through the floor. Then they'll get to fighting. They bite. When they bite, they fight. When they fight, they bite. Hey, we got a super chat. Markham KM, 4.99 pounds. Well, thank you, Markham. Appreciate that. All right, so we got 2 super chats tonight. Awesome. So plug a couple indoors, and they have ultrasonic sound that works in sequence of flashing light. Okay, but I do need to keep rats out of stuff at a distance around here, especially when you got animals like chickens. If you're feeding animals, you got to be real careful to feed. How you put it out, where you put it out, or where you feed is totally mouse proof. There's one of the problems I had in Alabama. I had rabbits, and I'd sometimes hire help to take care of things on the farm. And these people would always overfeed rabbits. And so, because they didn't want to come out and feed them every day, so they tried to feed them enough for 2 days' worth, which meant the rats would come in and eat the feed. And the rats would climb down wires. So all my rabbit cages were hanging in the air. None of them were connected to the ground or anything. They were hanging in the air by little old thin wires. And these darn rats climbed on those wires, getting those cages. And suddenly there was a population explosion, big rats on my property. So you got to really watch how you feed. And you don't put out any more feed than the animals will eat, like pretty fast. Or you're going to have a lot of stuff you don't want. And I told them not to do that, and they still do it. All righty. Happy Easter, Greg. Chat greetings from Sweden. All right. So good to see you from Sweden. I see how to pronounce that. Mar Mariae. Yeah, I don't even know how to pronounce that. I'm glad you're in the house. Thank you. Good to see you from Sweden. Yeah, I'd have to put that in some kind of software to figure out how to pronounce your name there. So, all righty. Pilgrim 420, how you doing? Oh my gosh, it's 3:30 in the morning here. So it's probably 6:30 on the East Coast. Yeah, time for people to get up. I still got to go to bed. I got somebody coming here in about 4 hours. It's going to take me an hour to get in bed. So I've been on here for a long time. I have had some long news to cover. And we've had a long conversation here. We went through the chat room. We've just been talking. So I think it's time to wrap it up. I got to hit the hay. Hope these cats will calm down so I can sleep a little bit. They tear the house up for 40 minutes and they get tired and they go to sleep. They sleep 40 minutes and they're back at it 40 minutes later. And just kind of 40 minutes on, 40 minutes off. Yeah, they go wild for 40 minutes and they wear themselves out and then they crash, sleep about 40 minutes and they're back up again. All righty, folks. It's time for the egg guess. How many eggs did I harvest today? I got 12 hens and one rooster. How many eggs did I harvest today? Time to guess. How many eggs did I harvest today? Howdy, Pilgrim. How many eggs did I get today? Come on, guys. I'm not seeing any guesses. I know there's some delay in here. All right, there's a guess. There's some guesses. I'm seeing some guesses. Nobody got it yet. 28. No, not 28. I wish. Nope. Keep guessing. Keep guessing. Whoa, Arnold got it tonight. Arnold Schmidt, you won yourself a self-paid vacation to lost wages. Arnold Schmidt got it. We got 7 eggs tonight. All right, stop guessing. Yeah, there's some delay. Stop guessing. Don't say anything else. I'm going to ask you another question in a minute. But you got to wait. Don't anticipate. Don't anticipate. You got to wait. Oh, my gosh. I know there's a delay when Arnold comes back after winning and guesses again. All right, to get the numbers stop rolling. All righty. Next guess. How many Easter eggs? That's my blue-green eggs. I got some hens that lay blue-green eggs. How many Easter eggs I get tonight? How about a guess? How many Easter eggs? Hey, Keith in Arizona. Keith, we need to talk soon. I need to ask you about something. I need some advice about the VA. All right, witness for justice. You got it. Witness for justice. Guess the correct number of Easter eggs. And I will show you guys these eggs. I'm going to turn a light on here and show you these eggs. I'm going to switch screens here where I can see my video. So, hang on. Turn this light on too. And here they are. And the Easter eggs are here. I put them on the end. That's your Easter eggs. They're blue-green. They kind of look white in this light. They're actually bluish-green. Not blue-green. They're blue. They're sky blue. These eggs are blue. They're sky blue. That's the Easter eggs. And all the rest of these eggs are Dominecker eggs. Especially that one. Look at that big one there with all those spots on it. I don't know why the bigger ones got brown spots. I got a hen that lays the big brown spotty eggs. I get about one a day of those. Sometimes 2. That's your Dominickers. I got a leghorn. I don't think she's ever laid any egg at all. Maybe one or two. Leghorn eggs are supposed to be white. And I get kind of a whitish looking egg occasionally. Maybe that's her. But I'm beginning to think she's beginning to look like I may have to name her Stew Pot. We just may name that poor little hen Stew Pot. She is not putting out eggs. Prima eggs. All right, so that's where we're at on the eggs. Now, what are y'all caring about? Jeez. Yeah, they think everything is meant to be bit, scratched, pulled down, and torn, knocked over. And if it breaks, it's all the better. Now, Cat, you need to quit running right up to the heater. They push things that can burn right in front of the heater constantly. So I can't run the heater at night with them in the house. I have to go home and turn it back up here a little bit, temperature up before I go to bed. So it can this kind of drift back down again. I got to warm the place up. It's already almost 4 a.m. in the morning here. It's going to take me an hour to probably get ready to go to bed anyway. So I'll just turn that thing up full blast. And while I do some other processing I got to do. Once you post a video, you got some other things you got to do with it. All right, Keith, we'll tag up. Wow, these things like kung fu fighters. They can chase each other. They both jump in the air and they collide. Sometimes they're fun to watch, but holy smoke, they do a lot of. Yeah, they're running back and forth underneath, beside me everywhere. That's why I'm looked down like that. They're like boom, 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 back and forth across the house, just tearing at it. Like the races. Then they meet midair, collide, crash the ground, jump each other, and then right in front of the heater. Stupid cats. They push things that can burn right to the heater. They don't know what fire is. Anyway, how can little devils be so cute? Alrighty, folks. Let's see. Have a good night, sir. Sweet dreams. All right, let me get back to my chat right over here and actually see what people are saying about it. Alrighty. Thank you. That's like, how you pronounce it? Is that Maria? Maria Ekum? Is that the way you say your name? Sweden. Well, I'm glad we got somebody from Sweden in here. It's always good to see our friends from Europe, and occasionally there's a guy shows up in Singapore. I used to have a lot of Filipinos watching. I've got more gardening content. We'll get some in now. Occasionally get somebody from Britain, Norway. And we got another guy who used to watch us a lot from Sweden. I don't know where he's at. I haven't seen him in a while. So, all righty, folks. We're going to call it a night. So I want to thank the super chatters tonight. I want to thank the mods for keeping things straight. I want to thank everyone for watching. And please comment in the comment section after I post a video and comment somebody else's comment, because that activity helps bring up the algorithm. It has no rhythms. Yeah, I need help with that. This platform is repressed by YouTube. They don't like the truth going out. So help me, guys. And I'm extremely repressed by YouTube, not slightly. My membership on this channel stopped growing 3 years ago. It was going like this, whoop, then 3 years ago, it hit a sound, yip, just like that. And I get tons of people saying, well, I don't ever get notifications of your video. I don't get notifications. I hear it all the time. Or people saying I got unsubscribed. Yeah, they do that because they're trying to cap this channel. So again, thank you everyone for watching. And to one and all, a good night, good day, wherever you are. And in honor of Granny Lana, who passed away just a little over a year ago. She always liked it when I ended with a certain expression, because she'd always pop up and say, I believe. So I've continued that. I got where I'd say it out, even out of season. And I've just continued it in her honor. So, and that is ho, ho, ho. Greg out.